Well, as the public learns more about the massive data mining operations by our intel agencies, we are also learning about a new firm scooping up data to sell to political campaigns. Google's executive chairman, Eric Schmidt, is said to have been so impressed with the work done by one company that helped Barack Obama get reelected that he personally invested in the group, which morphed from Obama for America Analytics into a new organization called Civis Analytics. The CEO of Google, well, former CEO, now is chairman, is now funding the president's old data mining operation to help elect Democratic and independent candidates. What can we expect from that? Stu Varney is anchor of Varney and Company on the Fox Business Network. Wow, so that's a pretty good organization to have for said Democratic and independent groups, no?
Megyn, it is very troubling. All these revelations about snooping make it very troubling that one of the most powerful people in the world, the executive chairman of Google, the most powerful internet company in the world, should be so closely tied in, not only to the president, but also to his re-election effort. It is Eric Schmidt who set up that data boiler room. He was in that data boiler room on the night of the re-election. He organized it. And then he is now investing in that same group, taking them private, and they will work on campaigns for Democrats elsewhere in the elections. Now, that's very troubling. It raises all kinds of questions about the intimate tie-in between the top man at the top internet company and the top man at the administration, which is largely accused of snooping on the public.
Because Eric Schmidt, extremely successful businessman, knows a lot about you. He knows a lot about all of us because, you know, he runs Google. I mean, come on. Google knows everything you search for, what you're doing, access to your Gmail, and so on. And what's the concern? That he would inappropriately share that information or use that information? I mean, there's been no history of that we know of.
No, there has not. But going forward, under Obamacare, your health records will be going online, and you will have to divulge information about your health insurance to the IRS. In this climate that we've now had thrust upon us, are we convinced that there will be no looking by the government at your healthcare records? It also raises the issue of crony capitalism. Recently, it was Apple that was hauled before Congress and criticized for not paying tax on overseas profits. Google's been doing exactly the same thing. Did they get a pass because they're so closely aligned to the president and Apple is not? Raises all kinds of questions, Megyn.
This organization that he is funding is good. They're really good.
Yes.
This Civis. And there's an interesting article in Bloomberg really crediting them with Barack Obama's reelection, talking about how they invented this sort of, or expanded on this game theory. There's a 30-year-old whiz kid named Dan Wagner who's behind it. And it started with analyzing the Iowa caucus, and it evolved into analyzing Obama's chances in every state in the union. And even David Plouffe, who was, the campaign manager, said, even in the presidential election, as we were getting down to the wire in Ohio, that last few weeks before, we were getting some data that would say Obama was up 4, the next he was down by 1, and says reportedly there were people in the campaign completely wigging out. But this guy, Dan Wagner, and his model and this group, they showed a steady 3 to 4 point lead for President Obama that would prove accurate. And so whatever they're doing, statistically or so on, tends to work,
yes.
Tends to be very effective. And now it's going to be used for all these other Democratic and independent groups. That's all fine and that's all fair. The question is whether Eric Schmidt or his connections at Google, if they improperly share data from that organization, that's what people are speculating about and worried about.
It is speculation, and it is nerves. That's true. But you have to ask the question, do you trust your government? In light of all these revelations about snooping by the IRS, the NSA, the DOJ, do you trust your government not to look at the information which is probably available to them? And the closeness of the tie-in between Eric Schmidt and the president himself, that's very troubling. Because Eric Schmidt is a very powerful guy. Google is the most powerful internet company on the planet.
But there's really no alternative, is there? I mean, I know there are some others, but there's nothing that is as big or powerful or as effective as Google in terms of search engines. Am I wrong?
No, you are absolutely right. That is true. They've got the, what's the word, the algorithms. They've got it.
Yeah.
And they've got the information, and they can mine it. And they have, and they will, and they keep doing it.
Well, we partnered with them in a presidential debate, and they had a very effective team and a wonderful snack room. And then they let me wear the Google glasses still. So, but this is actually yet another. There's a picture. There's another complaint because people are saying Google's about to take over the world. They're going to be putting people on the internet because people are going to be walking around with their glasses like this, filming you, and you don't even know.
What's that slogan they have? Do no harm or do no evil. It's one of those. I can't remember exactly which one it is. But this
evil.
throws, do no evil. This throws that whole slogan into question, in my opinion.
All right, Stu, thank you.
Sure.